Hey, welcome to How Work Actually Works. And I'm really excited because we have one of my favorite people in the whole world today as a guest, Tria Deibert. And I'm so grateful that you're here with us, Tria. Can you just quickly introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do, and then we'll start talking about why we're here together today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. And you're also one of my favorite people. So it's mutual. I lead culture and team member well-being for Hackensack Meridian Health. So I'm the SVP of culture and team member well-being. We're a health network in New Jersey, and we're amazing.
Love that. You know,
Absolutely.
my Joe, I have to say in my research, not inappropriate stalking of Tria prior to this engagement, I was reading through some of your profile, and I have to tell you, Tria, I loved a couple sentences that you have that describe what you do and what your philosophy is. And the one I wanted to share with you is this. You said, leadership is love in action.
Hmm.
And I wrote it down. I put it on a Post-it note. I got it up on my wall now. I just went, I have never heard that before, but I instantly gravitated towards it. So
Oh, I'm glad.
yeah, it hit me in a way. So I'm so excited to learn more about you and your practice and what you've done and how you've implemented things. And I'm jealous that Joe has known you for a while, to be honest.
It's good to meet you.
Yeah, ditto. Because Joe, you and Tria go back a ways, hey?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's 7 or 8 years now, Tria, believe it or not. 7 years,
Yeah, that's
right?
about right.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just had this quick, when you say you become fast friends, that's what happened. I was the consultant, she was the client, but it became so much more than that on like-minded people who see the world the same way. And we had this shared philosophy about this stuff. And, just so easy to work together when you see things similarly.
Joe, I think you're underselling it a little bit because I was new in the role and you helped shape my philosophy. So,
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
a lot of the work we did together really helped set me up for success and set the organization up for success.
Well, I appreciate that. That's
Yep.
awesome. I mean, you were built for it because, I was telling KayLee how you brought such an amazingly unique background and perspective to healthcare. And I think we know because I've worked on the inside of healthcare, you've been there even longer. Culture work in healthcare is hard. And
It
I
is.
think, why don't we just start there? What kind of, what are the innate challenges of culture work in healthcare? What do you think?
I think a couple of things and appreciative inquiry will play into one of these. We're deficit focused. So in healthcare, we're always looking at the red and trying to figure out what our gaps are while we do so many great things.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. The size, the decisions by committee, right? So I was in, for profit B2B publishing when I came into healthcare 20 years ago. And I literally drafted a business plan while I was at the DMV on the back of a notebook and brought it to my leader and it was a go or no go. And I came to healthcare and you need subject matter experts and different people to weigh in and for good reason because so much of what we do needs that kind of input, but it does make it more difficult to change.
Yeah. Yeah. From my experience in healthcare, when people say, what's the difference between healthcare and like maybe for profit? When I came from financial services, at one point I said, one is a cruise ship that you turn by turning the wheel 100 times to move a few degrees. And the other is a sports car where you flick your wrists and you're in the next lane. And I think that was my kind of favorite analogy for the difference. That's how
Yes.
I experienced it.
Yes.
Even when you
Um, yeah, go ahead.
Even when you stepped into the role, because I'm curious, you said you were newer to the role and you're getting in there. What was what was the real piece that you were trying to shift? Or what was kind of the thing that you went, this is the part I want to tackle first?
So I didn't really step into the role. It was I was in marketing and they asked me to take an internal leave of absence to lead culture. And I said, well, I have a significant concern.
Okay.
I'm not a culture expert, but at the time I had a leader who looked at strengths as opposed to experience. And he saw something in me that maybe I didn't see at that point. And he had faith that I would be able to do the work. Now, it was, everybody throws around imposter syndrome. I fully was immersed in imposter syndrome that first year. But there were a couple of things along the way. One, I had the full support of lead. Two, I quickly realized that unlike in marketing, it wasn't all in my scope. And what I mean by that was when I was first moving into the role, I thought, okay, I have to create the culture. Like I have to
You
create
got to
the
do it.
Right.
culture.
Yes.
And I learned quickly through data and practical experience that that's not how it works, that it is really leader by leader, team by team, and that you need a lot of like-minded people who are working with you to move the work forward. So we had a network of culture and well, at the time, just culture champions, now culture and well-being champions, culture circles, the support of the CEO, right? All of those things help to create that success as you move forward.
Sounds nice. You have the
Well, it
support
had
and you
its
have
challenges.
right? Yeah, that's the other side of the coin, right? It's so nice when those things are in place, but I'm sure that didn't happen overnight, right?
No, it does take time. So my current leader, Linda McHugh, when she first started a few years ago, she said something that I just play back in my head, and it's a journey, right? Like you cannot change doesn't happen overnight. It really does take time. It does take drive. You have to be made of hardy stuff. But if your heart's in it and you have the support, it can happen.
Are there I mean, even when you think about those challenges, because I always just have the mindset of how do we make it as practical as possible for the people listening? And I feel like you're such a wealth of knowledge having gone on the journey. What do you have an example of a challenge that or a roadblock that kind of came up and you went, this is something I'm going to have to push through in order to get the thing across the line?
Yeah, even right from the very, very start, right? We had values that
Okay.
were created by a consultant. And they were lovely and beautiful on paper, but they weren't reflective of us truly. Like,
Mm,
I don't know any nurse who would say, I'm a market shaper. They would say they're
No.
compassionate. They would say they're creative. They would say they're collaborative, right? So we really, I think the big hurdle first was how do we tell the story so
mm,
that it's truly about us and by us, as opposed to like what we think it should be, right? Based on, external input. And so I think that was the first challenge was getting buy-in that you don't need to use sophisticated words like market shaper. In fact, they might be a detriment, right? You need to understand how people in the organization talk, how they see themselves, what
right.
they want the culture to be, right? Align it with what you believe success looks like, and then design something, design a story, design the packaging, and not just have that story in the packaging, but you really have to bring it to life for people. And so I think the first challenge was one, you're a marketer. What are you doing in this role?
Hmm.
And two, why are you using these silly words and 5 C's or 4 C's at the time
Sure.
instead of, what we paid somebody to, help us with? And I think a lot of organizations struggle with that. I'm not in any way diminishing bringing in outside help. I think it's incredibly valuable. I'm just saying you really have to balance it with your internal voice and what you hear and see in the organization.
No kidding. And I'm sure you witnessed that, Joe. You had the opportunity, right, in terms of partnership to kind of see this
Yes.
start to all come together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Tria's gift is her humility and curiosity. She says imposter syndrome, it's because she's humble and she probably didn't know how great she was from day one. And that made her curious and inclusive by nature. So she just went around and said, what do you think? Here's what I'm thinking. How can we make this great together? So she was a natural, appreciative person. When I say appreciative, I mean the practice of appreciative inquiry without even knowing it. It's like But once we named it, she's like, "Oh yeah, I do that." And then she just had some more skills around it. And I think her gift for language is getting to the heart of language instead of the head of language, right? It's very intellectual and important. So it's like healthcare is important and serious. So the words are important and serious rather than
Mm.
human and heartfelt and warm. And I think she brings that warmth that healthcare needs because it's a caring business that sometimes can feel cold.
I wonder if it's worth maybe just defining this appreciative inquiry piece a little bit, because I know
Yes.
you're both referencing it, but some folks
Yes.
are not gonna know what that is
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it takes the old model for change of deficit based and trying to solve a problem and essentially saying, let's fix what's broken and bring it back to the status quo. Let's bring it back to where it's now working. Rather than doing that, simply saying, hey, we want to change something. So let's together decide what the future vision of it is. And let's build that thing together, which can often far surpass the status quo and bring new ideas and new energy that we never knew thought was possible. So it's sort of like collectively creating change. And you and I, KayLee, have started calling it change people choose because change is often done to people, but this is change people choose because they are included, they're at the table, and it feels inspiring.
Kinda sounds like synergy on steroids.
Yeah,
When I listen
right.
to you 2 talk about it, it's like
Right.
synergy on steroids in that way,
Yeah.
which
Right.
did that then play a part in your summit? Because I know I wanted to ask about these summits because I feel like the way you're doing this is so impactful and actually has these results that have lasting impact. So I just can you walk me through even the first summit or how this came about and some parts of it?
Absolutely. So, our first summit was really focused on foundational work and culture. That sounds
Okay.
boring. It was way more exciting than that. But we were at a point where we had established the foundation for the culture, but we knew that there were certain things we needed to do more of or elevate because of data. And I will say
Hmm.
this, right? I always go back to the data. Data drives everything that we're doing and it drives the focus of a summit. So we knew from our own data that if leaders did certain things with some consistency, these specific actions, that engagement was stronger. We looked at it team by team. We could see it. It was like clear as day on the page. And we used that data to help infuse the appreciative questions and the focus that we would have for the summit. And what happens is, we brought what, 400 people together for that first summit, Joe.
Wow.
So it was physicians, team members, leaders, board members, vendor partners, all different people in the room who focused on, right? You are able to focus the group on kind of where you want to go, but they tell you how to get there. And that's the magic, right? And I've adopted that philosophy day to day in everything I do now because I'm super creative. I can come up with lots of ideas and lots of ways to do things. That doesn't mean that's going to be the right way or the way a group wants to do it, right? So, this whole idea of, taking data, understanding that you have a strategy, but how you bring that strategy to life by involving lots of different people in a really engaging and positive way makes a huge difference on the back end because you have a better product and you have their buy-in, right? It's not you
Yeah.
creating it, it's co-creation.
And they were willing to do it? Like, did you
They
find you had to
loved it.
convince or you just went, "Here's the opportunity," and they jumped at it?
They jumped at it. I mean, and it's fun too. Joe can tell you, like, everybody brainstorms in groups and then they come together. We even had them do skits to present their ideas. So people came up with songs like one was around Ice Ice Baby and it was nice, nice culture. Um, and the message was amazing. The content was great, but they brought it forward in a really creative way. So the wonderful thing about these is you walk away with 3 to 5 key strategies that have been designed by the group that then you can, either pull work groups around, or some are low hanging fruit opportunities that you can do right away. There's some low hanging fruit, and then there's some that require additional work to run the summit, walk away with strategies, measure the outcomes of those strategies, and measure the impact of that on, on engagement.
It's like taking old school strat planning and almost flipping it on its head, right? I just want to make sure I'm getting it because you're essentially setting some guardrails going like this is where we're trying to get to, but the how you leave completely open to all these other humans to put in what
You
they
Yes.
know,
think is
I
actually
think
going to
old
work.
school is top down, and this isn't bottom up. This is across. And the reason it's
Okay.
across is because there's a key moment in a summit where everybody takes off their name tags, like their titles, and they put them in a
Nice.
bowl in the center. And it's more than symbolic, it's physical gesture of, I am not my title. And then they take a new name tag and they write their character for the day. Like I was Joey Tribbiani from Friends for fun. And that character means much more than just fun. It means we're all equals in the room. So it doesn't matter if there's an SVP at the table and there's someone who's in housekeeping, they are peers and they're discussing things equally, and it changes the energy in the room dramatically. And then later people talk about it. They feel like, wow, I was sharing my best ideas with somebody who I never met or talked to before.
Mhm.
So it's not bottom up, it's really across because everybody flattens the organization. I think that's one of the magical moments that works all the time.
Agreed.
Was there anything else that's such a great example, Joe, of a thing that's happening during that summit? Is there another example that you can give that makes this different than just another conference or summit coming together? Is there another either an activity or a piece of it that you went, "This is something new. I've never seen this part."
I think the biggest piece for me is the whole notion of focusing on what works and how you do more of that. Because I think a lot of times we go into meetings, like I said, where we're trying to figure out a problem or solve a problem, and we're looking at the problems and the issues. Instead, you're really setting the room up through guided activities to think about the things that work really well and how they feel when those things are happening so that
Yes.
they can create more of that. And I'm definitely a fan of focusing on what works. I mean, that's what so Cooper Rider was what made me go back to grad school. I sat in on a webinar he did or a Zoom, and he talked about the fact that when you shift your thinking and you shift your language to focusing on the positive like 80% of the time, it has a significant impact. And I really do believe I've seen it in action. You can see it on a team, you can see it in an organization, you can see it with your children, right? There's so many different ways that you can look at that, but negativity begets negativity. And, when you focus on what works, I think that's the difference between a regular meeting or strategic planning, or you're not problem solving, you're really creating the future.
Yes. Yes. And I think there's physical outcomes that people are surprised by. Like in one summit, we created like a blue sky wall, and all the strengths were these clouds, and the clouds on the sky created the dream. And people are taking pictures and videos of this. How many meetings do you go to where people are capturing the moments and they're excited to share versus thinking, can't wait till this is over, or where's the lunch? So when they're participating with that level of energy, you know you're hitting some important moments for them that they probably haven't experienced before in a session.
And then even the outcome from that. So you experience something, people are a part of this. I kind of have 2 questions. One, did you notice there was a moment where you felt a shift within the room? Was it during or after? And did you notice a change in how people were showing up, like post, whether it was in a meeting or they're running their own things? Like did you notice it to the point where you could identify?
Absolutely. I think on the grand scale, and then we've done this for departments and teams as well. And that
Yep.
has really helped to shift a team culture. So, on the grand scale, the last big summit we did, we walked away with our new framework for team member well-being. And so it was feel, live, work better. And it was very practical because one of the key things, Joe, you remember, one of the key things that people asked for in that meeting was give me an easy button,
Yes.
right?
Nice.
Give me an
Good.
easy button
Yeah.
for how to find what I need. And so tangibly, we were able to bring that to life through this framework instead of talking about, like, a lot of times well-being and benefits information can be organized by vendor or type. So you're searching for EAP. I don't know anybody who searches for EAP, right? In fact, sometimes they don't know what that is, but people do want counseling, right? People don't understand what counseling brings sometimes. So if you give scenarios and you use consumer language and you pull it into a framework that's simple, not emotional, spiritual, those are all great, but tangibly, I want to feel better, I want to live better, and I want to work better. And
Right.
so we heard that from the room. So the people who were in that meeting were energized to move forward and joined work streams to continue the work because you're not done that day. So that's definitely a tangible that comes out of it. And people were excited to do that work because they had the opportunity not just to have input that day, but to have input in how it came to life.
And can you remind me, is it 400 people, did you say? This is,
Yeah. Give or
Yeah.
take.
I mean, that's significant. Like, we're not talking about 20 people in a room trying to do these things. This is hundreds of people embracing this way, this philosophy, this way of thinking, and are truly a part of the thing from the start.
That's a key point, actually, because
Yeah.
we've had 400 people or so each time. We've done this with departments and teams. And so when you talk about culture change, the more people that you involve in these summits, whether it's team based, department based, hospital based, we've done hospital leadership teams,
Mm.
people then start to understand the approach and the way of thinking, and then it helps to shape the way they show up at work. So that's another outcome of using this practice.
It's a universal language almost, like you're part of the club now, you know the things. It's a uniting language. Is that fair, Joe? Would you say that you've seen that even in your involvement in the summits
Yes,
here?
yes. You start to see people think about what's possible. They start using language like that instead of just talking about what's broken. So when they see a problem, I've seen people say, "So how do we reframe that?" And how do you reframe it as a possibility instead of a problem? And then think about what strengths we have to get there and what are we going to do and what are we excited about? So the energy changes because there's so much negative brain chemistry with the deficit based approach. People feel the threat, they feel the disappointment, they feel discouraged, and they feel like it's going to be a blame session. And this one is so much more inspiring and interesting and energizing that once you do it, you don't want to go back. So I've seen it kind of flip and not go back in a lot of organizations and teams.
And in this case, it even resulted in some real recognition for you in the organization, right, Tria? There was, I think it's is it the best places to work? Is that the actual congratulations? That's
Yeah.
not easy to do. I just want to
No,
call
it's
that
not.
out.
Especially in healthcare, especially in healthcare.
Yeah.
No, it's
Like,
not.
can we talk about how that is not an easy thing? That is not just I filled out a form and sent a thing in and got this award, right? I'm sure there was a lot more to that.
If it was that easy, we would have had it from the start. But no, it takes time and it takes a lot of hard work and it takes leadership. So I go back to the fact that my number one strategy for culture is building the leadership capacity of our committed coaches.
Mm,
That is foremost for us. It goes back to the fact that they build the culture team by team. The other thing is, I've talked about all these great things that we're doing, and we're not the only ones who have great ideas. There are other people in my role in other organization who have great ideas and want to take these leaps. They don't always have the support of their CEO. That's what I hear from them. Like, I can't move something forward because I don't have the buy-in. Our CEO, Bob Garrett, came to both summits, opened it up, talked about how he believed in this and truly does. And he supported the work and he supported the change that has come out of the work. So that's also really important. It's not top down, but to have your CEO aligned with this really helps the success.
I'm just thinking of past roles and going, I wish,
right,
just to be
right,
honest, I'm
right.
going like there's those, you appreciate it so much more when you do have it. But there's a lot of us or a lot of people that have been in roles where you don't have that. And even though everyone else might be pulling in the same way, that can be a real challenge sometimes. We don't have all the folks from executive or everybody, especially at the top of the food chain, pulling for the same ideas, pulling in the same way.
I think it's the only way it's sustainable, you know? I think you could have spurts of success and moments of success that last even a couple of years, but without the top leaders saying, "We believe in this too," it's eventually gonna hit a wall.
Yes.
And when you mentioned about the focus on leadership development and making sure that there's that especially at the certain levels that have influence over those in their care and you're giving them the support and the training, maybe this is just my background coming in, but I'm so curious. Is it like how much time are you dedicating in a year? Or is there like what's are we going, yep, they gotta attend 3 things per year? What's sort of some of the examples of ways you're reinforcing or putting expectations in for those leaders?
So we put a lot of time into this. And here I will definitely give huge props and credit to our director, Mary Bazkowski, because she lives and breathes this. So we provide elbow support from rounding. Our team rounds. Everyone rounds at least 2 days a week, right, on our team because our team members aren't here, they're everywhere. The other thing is, in addition to that, we set leader goals around the actions and behaviors that drive the outcomes. That was a big shift for us. So we set goals around engagement. That's the outcome and it's super important, but it's not how a leader gets there. And so every month we send our leaders an update as to how they're doing against those goals. All of the resources available to them are embedded in the email. We host weekly drop in hours so that they can drop in with us. But then also knowing that there are some leaders who need extra loving support, right? And so for that this year, built into goals for those leaders, Mary hosted 33 appreciative sessions across the network in person where leaders could come and get grounded in taking an appreciative approach to. So, Joe, this is new. We've been calling this the standard work that works. So, it's involving your team, communicating with your team, celebrating your team, and checking in with your team. And again, through rounding this past year, for sure, I've heard a lot of feedback that it's seen as like the check in is seen as compliance, right? Like you have to check in, you have
Yes.
to send recognition. And I'm the person who's always saying words matter. And I'm thinking, we package this as the standard work that works. That sounds like compliance or check-in.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't sound inspiring. So we've actually kept the actions, but next year is going to be all about leading with heart. So we've talked about it as really the foremost loving things you can do for your team. And so I think that helps to shift too. So we show up for our leaders in lots of different ways. There's a ton of training, a ton of resourcing, mentor programs, development programs. That's not my team, that's Patrice Ventura's team. But she and I work together. And then we do provide a lot of elbow support and a lot of focused and loving attention where it's needed.
Did you notice there, Kaylee, though, that she saw something and it wasn't her prized possession and she said, "This isn't working and I'm gonna change it"? That's what makes Tria great. She says, "Is it working? Or is it landing?" And she takes the feedback and changes it because she knows it's not gonna work if I'm stubborn and I just stick to it because it's my original plan, and that's that's
Yeah.
that's one of her superpowers.
Thank you.
I mean,
You're welcome.
Wasn't always,
I'm just like,
but
I don't have any background in healthcare, but I'll work real hard for you, Tria. This is where I sometimes start doing my selling piece. It just sure sounds lovely. I even wrote down as you were talking that the amount of times that you even using the word love, I just want to go back to that. You said, um, was it loving the things you can do for your team? Is that what you,
so
I want to make
I
sure I
feel
get
like
that.
when you celebrate your team, when you check in with them, when you involve them in decisions, and when you communicate frequently, that's showing love to your team. Those are loving actions because it helps them feel, and I know everybody uses this, but it does really help people feel seen, valued, and inspired, right? You don't feel that way naturally. Somebody has to do that for you. But when those actions happen with consistency, it really does create that environment.
I'm just glad you're comfortable with that language because we kind of sanitize the language sometimes for business, and we turn what could be really warm and wonderful into something that's like sounds terrible because we've changed it so much. So just say the thing, and I love it.
What would you I want to ask you, and Joe, I'm kind of asking you both too. I'm curious what you think about this. What would be the thing that you would tell a leader who who maybe just thinks culture work, fluffy HR stuff? Like I'm just trying to like there's some people or some folks that are, leading these organizations to go, oh God, I gotta go to another culture thing. And they look at it as soft or as an additional thing to do. What would you say to those people, or how would you go about positioning it differently
I have that conversation frequently
okay.
because, um, well, because I think when you work with medical professionals, they are scientifically based, right? Like they think more like science minded. I am not science minded, but in healthcare, we follow the evidence, right? If you're a nurse, you follow the evidence when you're providing care. There are certain things you do, like as simple as hand washing, right? We know that through data and research and all of this, that when you wash your hands, you prevent infections. So we've adopted some of that language to how we talk about the work of culture and the work of engagement, and we go back to the data. So we are able to show team leaders and team members that when attention is consistent, engagement is higher. So we show the cause and effect. The other thing that we're working on right now, very, very early, is a correlation study where we're going to look at engagement and outcomes. So, engagement, quality, safety, patient experience. Because anecdotally, I do see that when team leaders are checking in with their teams and providing that recognition, engagement is higher. And over the last 2 years, we've seen a statistically significant increase in engagement. We've also seen huge strides in quality, safety. Now, there's a ton of work happening in those areas, but that work happens better, more effectively, more efficiently when a team is strong. And so I think for us, it's really talking about culture isn't, I think sometimes people think I throw parties and paint pictures. We're deep in the data. We're looking at what's driving this. What are the relationships between culture, engagement, and outcomes? And practically, what can you do to drive that? And that's been the key, right? Like to say to a leader, you need to increase your engagement. How do I
Right.
do
What does
that?
that mean? Yeah.
If we're able to say, here are 4 things you can do. If you don't do anything else, because I know you're busy, here are 4 things you can do that are proven to drive engagement. That's the practicality of it.
I love just the satisfaction on Joe's face that say, there's a reason we wanted you, and it's for many reasons, but having a first guest that shares such similar philosophies is, I don't know, I just feel energized. I don't know about you, Joe, but there's something
Yes,
about it. It's
yes,
so nice to have a
I
leader at
know.
such a high level with so much experience doing the work, that it's not just something we're talking about going, wouldn't it be nice if,
Yeah,
you know, that it's
yeah.
actually happening.
These are theories in practice with proven outcomes through, through someone who does it every day, year after year after year. So awesome.
It's just amazing. Okay, well, and I totally hogged all the questions, but I'm selfish because Joe's had more time with you than I have. So feel free to jump in, Joe. And my one other one I wanted to ask too is, if you think about a leader listening to this and they're going, gosh, maybe I could be better at this appreciative inquiry, or maybe there's something I could be doing just within my own team. What is a practice that you would recommend, or a thing that you would say you can do this tomorrow? This is something you could do tomorrow to implement.
Yeah. It's the 4 things I just mentioned. Like they
Okay.
are So easy to do. Check in with your team, right? Even if you don't have a platform that helps you do that,
Right.
check in. How are you doing? Is there anything I can help you with? What makes you feel strong? How can I help you do more of that? Recognize their great work, not just the big things, but the little moments as well. Those are really, really important. Involve them in decisions, right? Use an appreciative approach. Ask the team how things should move forward. And when they give you ideas, close the loop. Be honest when you cannot move something forward because you can't move every idea forward, but move the ideas forward that you can. And the other thing is communicate, 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 right? We struggle with that, I think, everywhere. There's so much going on and there's so much noise, right? There's so many things to remember. But as a leader, if you're able to say, here's what's important this week, or here's what's important right now, and I want you to understand why it's important, huge. So those are like 4 easy things that any leader
Too.
can be doing with some consistency that will drive results and strengthen your team.
Geez, that was perfect. I mean, notice how you kind of lead with curiosity, more questions than statements. You emphasize clarity of always saying the thing, telling people what's happening, and you always underlie with care. I think it was that those ingredients are just naturally embedded in that stuff, and that's why it works.
Yep. And again, through data, right? Like we discovered
Yes.
all of this by studying our surveys,
Right.
our engagement. Prior to AI, I used to highlight everything with a highlighter pen and right, I
Yeah.
would read all the comments. And so it's important
Yes.
to listen.
No, I think that's a good call out. This isn't just gut feel decisions by HR folks going, I think the team needs this. It's rooted in legitimate business evidence based thinking. And it's nice to be able to connect the dots in that way.
And it's delivered in a way that says, hey, we're not asking you to do this whole other thing.
Right.
While you're doing A, do B. While you're doing C, do D. Like embed this in your day to day. It's stuff that goes along with your real work. Because Tria is always practical. She doesn't expect people to take on a whole new responsibility out of left field.
And the most important thing, do it all with heart and love. I can't, I can't say any more about,
Yes.
people can feel when you're not sincere or when you're phoning it in. Um, and they can also feel when you're not.
Yeah.
Well
The
said.
authenticity there. We're all speaking the same love language. That's for sure.
Yes, that's
Well,
right.
I'll email you my application and we'll just go from there. But I do, and I'm sure Joe, I'll let you wrap it up because I know you've got the history, and I'm sure you want to say thank you. But just from my side, I am so grateful for your willingness to share in such practical examples and just be so open with your philosophy and how you feel. I have no doubt your team is only going to continue to succeed leaps and bounds, as I'm sure they already are. So thank you for sharing and being a part of our little chat.
Thank you. It's great to talk about the work our leaders are doing. So
Fun.
thank you.
When I thought about a guest and a first guest, there was only one name on the list. And when you said yes, you made my day. And
Ah,
now this is proof that you were absolutely the perfect choice. So thank you, Tria. You're amazing.
thank you, Joe.
I'm just lucky to know you. Thank you.
Same.
Enjoy the holidays. We'll see
Yes.
everybody
Yes.
we'll see everyone in a fortnight. That's my thing, Tria.
Love
That's
it.
my
I
closing
love it.
to sound
Yeah.
fancier
We
than I
want we
am.
want our
Yeah.
listeners to do a little work and figure out a fortnight that it's not just a video game for kids.
And you got the Swifties.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, awesome. Thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you.